How you doing, guys? The older I get, the less drama I like. I don't like a whole lot of altercations, and I've gotten very unconfrontational. Unless, of course, somebody really causes me some issues. The best way to avoid it is keep people out of your business. Stay out of theirs. Whenever you move into a new neighborhood, usually the same thing happens. People see a new face. Well, the neighbors buzz around and they start chit-chatting. And over time, you find there are some neighbors you like. Other neighbors you're not too crazy about, but you do your best to get along with them. It's always good to get along with people at the home front. Sometimes they will not let you. Now, I get along for the most part with people in my neighborhood. That's the way I like it. There's a few people I absolutely do not like, and I avoid them altogether. Directly next door, I have this old age hippie. I didn't know there were any still around, but yes, there is, who lives directly next door to me. For the most part, he's a little bit too earthy for my liking. I don't particularly like his conversation. Well, when I first moved here, 4 or 5 years ago, he saw me sitting outside having coffee. Well, he started coming over and chit-chatting and stuff. I like, yeah, hi, bye type of thing, and moved him along. The guy is very forgetful. He would forget his head if it wasn't attached, and sometimes I wonder if it is. But he come over one day and he says, hey, I lost my phone. Yeah? He says, can you call it and see if I can find it in my house? I guess he was going to listen for the ring and look around for it. I says, yeah, sure, not a problem. So he goes back. I call, went directly to voicemail. So that told me he had his phone turned off. That's not going to help. I expected him to come back outside saying, hey, when are you going to call? But he didn't. That wasn't the only time. It happened again and again and again. Then he started showing up while I was at work. And he's like, hey, can you call my phone in a few minutes? I don't know where I left it. By this point, I stopped calling. I said, yeah, sure, I will. I just go back to work and ignore it. One day he came in, he decided he was going to come in for lunch, so he orders a burger and fries. Okay, made it for him. I look out in the parking lot. He drives away. I figured, well, you know something, he probably forgot his money and he went home to get it. Well, 10 minutes goes by, half hour goes by. His lunch is sitting there, and I'm like, he's not coming back, the son of a bitch. Well, he finally did, about 2 hours later. Well, he grabs it, pays for it, goes outside. He starts having lunch outside. He comes back in to start register a complaint. And he says, hey, my burger and fries, they're cold. And I'm like, no kidding, dude. I made it 2 hours ago. He says, well, can you make me another one? I was not going to eat the cost. So I says, you will be paying for it. And he goes, no. And I'm like, why aren't you going to pay for it? He says, because this is cold. It's supposed to be hot. I'm like, dude, it was very hot 2 hours ago. No, you are not getting a freebie because this is your fault, dude. And he goes, yeah, but I drove away and I forgot. Well, tough titties, son. He got PO'd at me, stormed out, and went back home. Well, I guess he has issues with me and has for a few months now because every time he sees me outside, he'll give me this dirty look and he'll stop making comments. For the most part, I ignore them because physically he is absolutely no threat to me. And I'm like, just ignore him. One day, a group of us were talking. And we all sitting there chit-chatting. Well, he wants to be annoying, I guess. Apparently, he had dipped into the magic mushrooms just a little bit too much. Well, he comes over, falls on his back, and he goes, look at me, I'm a turtle. We're all like, dude, get up and go in the house. Well, he got mad. So he gets up and he storms off. Well, one of the neighbors went over back to his house across the street. And he starts, goes over there, and all we heard was, dude, get away from me. Well, the hippie kept on going and going and going. We don't know what they were arguing about, but finally the hippie decides to go back to his house. Well, the guy across the street picks up a flare gun, shoots it at his house. All we hear from the hippie's house was, "Ceasefire!" Well, I guess he heard us all laughing. So what he started doing after that was playing Christmas music, which would have been fine if it was Christmas. But it wasn't. This is going into March. This is only a few weeks ago. And one day I'm just sitting there, he's playing Christmas music. So I called the guys, told them about this. He's playing Christmas music? Yeah. Well, 6 o'clock one night, all the guys came over. And we're all sitting there waiting. 6 o'clock hit, he pulls in, starts playing that Christmas music. Well, he got mad because he was trying to get me mad. But we started singing right along because I had the guys here. I had one lady friend on the phone, and we're all just laughing and laughing and laughing. And he's getting madder and madder and madder. He comes out over behind the hedge, and he's giving us his dirty look. And he's like, "F you guys!" And he goes back in his house. Well, the funny thing was, one of the younger guys there was like 19 or 20. He says, "Dude, you better be careful. One day he's going to go postal." Well, it was funny that he said that. And it just dawned on me. So I asked him, I says, "Dude, do you even know where that phrase came from?" And he's like, "No, I don't." It's funny. At his age, he probably wouldn't. Well, several of us explained where it came from. Hold on, guys. I got to get me some coffee. I really do need to get a bigger cup. So we explained to him where the phrase came from, going postal. We told him some years, decades gone by, that many postal workers were snapping on the job and shooting the place up. And this wasn't limited to just the post office. This was in many places of employment where staff members or employees would finally have had it with their job, had it with their bosses, and just lose it. Over the years, it started happening in more and more and more. Before, it used to happen, and it would be big news. Now, sorry to say, that it's just kind of a side note now. It's not as shocking as it once was, because it happens too much. Mostly now in places of worship, in churches and things like that. Some 15 years ago, I don't think I was quite baptized at the time. Now, normally, just out of habit, when I'm in an establishment or in any place, I generally will keep my back to the wall where I can see all the entrances. That's just a habit, and very old habit of mine. Except when I was at the Kingdom Hall. I had foolishly let my guard down. When I started going to the Kingdom Hall, I sat right in the front. So now I had this whole hall behind me. All I could hear were voices. Couldn't see any faces. I didn't know what was going on. Didn't really feel too comfortable with that. As the months went by, there was a couple of church shootings that were in the news. And a few of the JWs after the meeting were talking about it. One of the girls makes a comment which kind of stuck out. "Well, I'm glad that doesn't happen at the Kingdom Hall." Now, my thing was, it very well could. But they had this false perception that they were going to be protected by their God and not shot up in the Kingdom Halls. Well, sorry to say, that's false. Because the Kingdom Hall shootings we all know about, what was it last month in Colorado? And the one more recently in Germany. I'm not going to say too much about the shootings, because it's what causes somebody to do something like that. All I can say is frustration, lack of control of a situation, and people just lose it. But in recent weeks, I've seen some comments, not on my channel, but on various channels. I was reading some comments where a few Jehovah's Witnesses thought the Kingdom Hall shootings were fake news. What would the purpose of that be? Do you really believe that Jehovah is going to protect you from a mass shooting in your halls or in your convention centers, for that matter? If that were the case, don't you think your God will be protecting the children that are getting molested in your organization? Well, as I said, I sat in the front of the hall, but soon moved to the back. Kept my eye on everything. But there was another comment that I read that really bothered me. That the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are probably happy about these shootings. Why would anybody be happy about a shooting? Especially where innocent people are hurt. I mean, think about that. I believe in Germany, 8 people were killed, many more injured. And as far as kills, including an unborn baby, I don't have the stats for the ones in Colorado. But you think about that. Innocent people are being killed. Who would be happy about that? Any Jehovah's Witnesses who thinks that the XJWs are happy about it? No, we are not. Don't forget, we spent time in the Kingdom Halls too. That could very well have been us. That could very well have been our families. Or friends, for that matter. Will it happen again? I can't say if it will. I can't say if it won't. But things are going crazy. And right now, churches and houses of worship are targeted. For what reason? It doesn't matter. The only advice I can give is always be aware of your surroundings. Not only in places of worship, but wherever you go, be aware of your surroundings. That's pretty much all I have to say about it, guys. But I've been sitting back quietly for the last few weeks, and reading those 2 comments kind of bothered me, and I kind of wanted to touch on it. Anyways, guys, you have a good night. I'll be talking to you soon.